Ready to break up with your bank, but stressed about having to redo all your direct deposits? With Amplify Credit Union's new tool, ClickSwitch, it's easy to make your money move. With just a few clicks, you'll be on your way to fee-free banking in less than 90 seconds.
Order up!
Before your coffee order is ready. Make the switch to fee-free banking and never pay another bank fee again with ClickSwitch from Amplify Credit Union.
And platitudes don't work. Because when you're getting divorced, like, aw, can't y'all just get along for the sake of the kids? Like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? I could have read that on the side of like a Precious Moments doll package or whatever. But for those of us who it's not just easy like that, I think that's where me and our firm can be really helpful.
Hi, my name is Mindy Hofman, and welcome to the Women of Austin podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have Hannah Hembree Bell with me.
All right, woohoo! I'm happy to be here.
So excited. I was really excited because we met recently, and we had a wonderful lunch, and I was just like, I need to know more, but I want everyone else to know what I know about this amazing woman. So thank you for taking the time to come here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm already having way fun.
Yes,
so
good.
I'm super excited.
Good. Well, if you want to tell us how you became a family law attorney, which I don't think I haven't told the audience yet. She is a family law attorney, and you also do probate, right?
We do a little bit of estate planning, but I am the founding attorney at Hembree Bell Law, where we help marriages end well in Austin and San Antonio, kind of the bigger area. And we do a little bit of estate planning, but really kind of tangential to divorce, custody, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, if I remember correctly, you weren't always looking to go into family law. That was never the vision, but here you are doing your thing. If you could tell us how it came to be, your road here. Yeah,
so I went to law school. I already had 3 kids and was married to my now ex-husband, plot runner. And I went to law school, and I later was reminded of this fact, but I'd forgotten. I had, everybody in law school at some point kind of meets this fork in the road. Like, who am I? What do I want to be? You go through all those questioning of your identity because you're relearning how to think. And so if you're doing it right, you're thinking really critically. And a friend helped me remember that when I went to law school, I said, I really want to help women and people in really difficult situations, maybe like divorce. I swear to you, I forgot all about that. And because years later, after going into school, I ended up doing really good in school. Like, I had 3 kids. I thought I was going to go to school and barely scrape by, but I did well. And so what that did was opened up different opportunities for me to go into big law. So like the dream of most law students is, if I, made really good grades and I could go work in a tall skyscraper and, make a bunch of money right away.
Yeah.
And so I forgot that little still small voice inside that was with me when I started school, and got sort of swept up. And it was meant to be for me. Like, I'm glad it all happened that way. But I went into employment law in the big law setting. So like an AmLaw 200, that's like the biggest 200 firms in the country, or I don't know, something big and fancy.
Sounds important.
Yeah, whatever. And I did employment law for the first 2 years until I, and along the way in law school, like right at the beginning of that big law journey, I got divorced. So that's the plot runner part. Like between my second and third year of, is that right? My second and third year? Yes. I got divorced. And that really, of course, I know you know this, changes the rest of your life from that point forward. But fast forward 2 years in big law, and I was going through a custody modification, which is the thing after divorce, like if something needs to change about child support, possession times, mental health, decision-making, things like that. And so I was going through that personally. And on the other side of it, as soon as the case was over, I was like, okay, I have to go back and help other people do what I had to do in that situation. I waited about 6 months because I knew everybody was going to think I was crazy, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't having some pendulum reaction, to just having gone through it. So like now I want to do that. Like when you go on a trip to Hawaii and all of a sudden you're like, I want to move to Hawaii. I'm going to be an island person now.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I was like, I did a custody case. So now I'm a custody lawyer. And it really did stick. So I guess about 6 months or so later, it's like, okay, I've got to be the sort of lawyer I'd wished I'd had from the beginning. And that's how the firm started.
I love that. And I love hearing that. That's amazing. You must have the biggest heart and the most patience, because you take on a lot. You see people when they are at one of the hardest things in their life, right? How does that feel to you? Did you realize going in that would be a big part of the job?
Yeah, I mean, biggest heart, yes. Most patient. Nobody's ever in my life characterized me as a patient person. So I think anybody who knows me watches this would be like, au contraire, I don't think so. But I think what I have more than anything is an extra helping of empathy. Because I understand what it's like to go through that. And I am able sometimes to dig deep and remind, I've got a big team now, and be like, hey, remember, this person is at their lowest possible moment. Mm-hmm. We're not seeing their best selves. We're not seeing them at their number one. They're not thinking rationally. They're not thinking reasonably. They're not trying to be mean to you. They're just, they got to put that anger someplace. And so I guess I knew that, right? Like I got to go do for other people what I wished I would have had for me. So there was this component of I was in San Antonio at the time. It was very difficult for me, even as a lawyer, to find a divorce lawyer, to get and I had the inside track for referrals and things like that. And now I'm, in Austin. And so it's easier in some ways here and now that I know more and everything. But I definitely wanted to bring that practical, empathetic approach. And also, like, empathy sounds soft. Like, when you think of empathy, you think, people usually think of sympathy, like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. But for me, it's empathy in the sense of I've been there, and I'm going to tell you what I wish somebody would have told me back then. And it may not be easy, and I'm not going to join your victimhood party. I'm going to help you make the decision to be the creator in your own life and, like, move through and past this, and I'm going to help be a guide for you versus you having to figure it out on your own. And, I always say, like, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and so much, like, has pretty much everybody else at our firm. And I think that's the unique approach. Like, I don't know, how about get a divorce lawyer who's, like, actually divorced? Yeah. And I think that's helpful. I'm not saying you can't be, okay, no shade. You can't be a good divorce lawyer without having been divorced. But I do think that those of us who are members of the club,
yes,
there is something that we understand about each other and a level of, like, solidarity in it. And platitudes don't work. Because when you're getting divorced, like, can't y'all just get along for the sake of the kids? Like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? I could have read that on the side of, like, a Precious Moments doll package or whatever. But for those of us who it's not just easy like that, I think that's where me and our firm can be really helpful, is to come in there and be like, look, we ain't saying this is Pollyanna, and probably it's not. Mm-hmm. And we can help give you some real practical tips to, like, save your sanity, save your money, and protect your kids' peace.
Oh, the money. It is so expensive. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's wild. Oh, so I saw something on your website, a video where you were talking about so what, and it made me think of my experience where, had I heard that before going through my divorce and even after, had somebody told me what I hope you'll tell everybody next is, I would have saved so much money.
Yeah, and I think that's what I try to do is, like, my number one message to people going through divorce is keep the main thing the main thing. Now, so what happens is people get caught up in the drama of it and the fight of it, and you don't have to accept every invitation that's given to you. So, like, whoever you're divorcing, I call them the X factor. Like, if they're your spouse, or, like, if you're just in a custody sitch, then the X factor may invite you to a war. Like, you don't have to play that game. You can live and you can behave in such a way that you'll be proud of it on the other side. But like, one of the things that happens is you can get drugged down into the mud and into these little details of like, well, he didn't bring her to cheerleading again. And he just gets away with whatever he wants to do. And this is just not fair. And somebody has to make it right. And you can find yourself spending thousands of dollars, way more than the cheer uniform, talking about the fact that this person didn't take some cheer uniform somewhere. Guess what? Like, you ask yourself, so what? Okay, so he didn't do it. And then what? Okay, well, then people are going to know. Who's people? You already know. He's never going to agree that you're right. His lawyer does not care. And frankly, I don't care, right? And like, definitely a judge is not going to care about that. Yeah. So I think that's one helpful thing. If nothing else, if you're going through this, you can ask yourself for any action you're going to take, like, so what? And people say, well, it's the principle of it. You don't got enough money to fight for principles in a divorce unless you like live down on Town Lake or whatever. Maybe you have enough money, but like most of us do not have that. And I think keeping that focus of the main thing. And if you could be strategic in your behaviors. But the thing is, people going through divorce are hurting. They're angry. Sometimes they feel hopeless. They feel desperate. They don't know who to trust. They don't know where to turn. And doing something feels better than waiting. And a lot of the divorce and custody world, you have to just wait a minute. Like, the wheels of justice turn slowly, right? And that phrase is a truism for a reason. Like, in lawyer in court time, like 5 months is not that long. In real life, in human time, that is forever.
Yeah.
Children, like, may go into a new grade. Who knows what have happened.
Yeah.
But getting that perspective and getting strategic about your decisions and not allowing your emotions to take you to a place you don't want to go. It's going to keep you longer than you intended to stay and cost you more than you meant to pay.
Yeah.
So I try to help people do that. Like, I am mindful of the expense. Nobody gets divorced because it's cheap and like a fun financial decision.
Yeah.
And it's really up to the two parties. And it really only takes one to tango in this situation, because one person can super escalate the price of a divorce. Mm-hmm. So sort of an agreement both parties really need to come to keep those costs down. I mean, that's how we make our living, right? Yeah. Is doing this. And every bit of conflict, every bit of fight can cost you thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you need to be careful in how you decide how to spend your energy and your money. People don't usually show their number one best self in the middle of a divorce, and then I'll meet them or see them years later. I'm like, you left me, you were a little grouchy, but you seem kind of nice now, so I guess everything's kind of going okay. So,
Women of Austin would like to thank our community sponsors. Dave's Ultimate Automotive. With 6 locations, there's sure to be a Dave's near you. Joel Richardson and team, your Austin mortgage lenders. MyFinanceTeam.com. Warren Callion Maddox, a proud women and minority-owned law firm. WarrenCallion.com. I had to get my attorney involved over dropping my daughter off 2 minutes late. Like, it's crazy what people can
exactly.
do.
So what?
Yeah.
So you're 2 minutes late. So what?
Yeah.
Who, because they are. Okay. And what? Right. And so if you can't, that's one of the things I try to help people do is like get some guiding principles whereby to make decisions. Yeah. So like 2 minutes late, hours late, unless it directly impacts the children.
Yeah.
It's not, it'd have to be lots of hours late, lots of times before it ever comes up. 15, 20 minutes late, you ain't ever going to hear about it. It's real annoying.
Yeah,
I get it. Like, it can really make you mad, but it's not going to, move the needle more than likely.
That's so good to know, because I was so scared. Like, I thought, I'm going to get my daughter taken away from me. This is it. Like, the divorce feels so scary.
Well, and I think that's because the veil of I don't want to say, it's not exactly secrecy. It's like it's this veil of unknown. Behind some veil, some curtain is all this other stuff. And we're afraid of what we don't know. So if you can get the knowledge about it, I think you can gain a lot of your power back and just gain a lot of your peace of mind. And that's one of the projects that we're working on right now, is actually a podcast and a series of lessons and things and in a community to teach parents to deal with custody drama without losing their mind, their money, or sacrificing their kids' peace. And I think largely it's just about helping people understand what to do, because, and I understand why this is, like, divorce lawyers, their job is to get you divorced. So ding, 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 ring the bell when I hand you your divorce decree. Like, we're done. It's certified. You can take it to the mortgage people. You can take it to Social Security, change your, driver's license and whatever. But then what about the rest of the story? And for a lot of us, the real challenge begins after the divorce is finished. People think when you're in the middle of the divorce, most people cannot see beyond it. They're sure they're never going to get, if I had $1 for everybody told me they're never going to get married again. Yes, you are going to get married again. Like, okay. That they can't see beyond the divorce. So they think, oh, when the divorce is done, like, boom, I'm now going to be peaceful and I'm going to be happy and I'm not going to spend any money and everything's going to get better. Like, really, the person you've divorced is probably going to keep being that same kind of gal or guy afterwards. And so you have to learn a new way to deal with them when you're not in the middle of protracted litigation, when you're not living with them, when they're in their own world and you're in your own world and there's the only overlap are these children. I think that space, if you ask me, is much harder to navigate than the actual divorce itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have kids, it doesn't end.
Ever.
Yeah.
Never. It's never going to end.
Yeah.
Because then, people, 18, well, then you have college, then you have graduations, and you have baby showers and all of that. Ideally, people would get along. Like we were just having somebody tell us today, a story about how these, the new couple, each person's remarried and the new couples like vacation and stay at the same house. Like that is clearly the correct way to behave. The thing is that takes two sets, or, two people who are reasonable, rational, really able of putting the kids' needs first and who can work together and find some common ground for the sake of the kids and for the sake of everyone's peace. Those sorts of people are, at least, I'm saying this anecdotally, I don't know, like facts, but like in my experience, they're definitely much more the exception than the rule because it's tough. You're getting divorced for a reason. So usually part of the reason is y'all can't get along too good.
Do you ever follow up with your past clients?
Yeah, yes, and more so they'll follow up with me. So I'm always like, look, we need to end this divorce really strong, et cetera, especially in certain situations like you're going to need me in the future. Like this, you are not done. This is not, your divorce papers are done, but it's only a matter of time before something comes back in like these highly contentious situations. So like even actually later today, I have a call with a former client about some kind of custody, something or another. And some of my clients, like after time, or maybe my friends on social media, or I know them or whatever, I love to hear about the rest of the story. And it's interesting because, people don't usually show their number one best self in the middle of a divorce. And then I'll meet them or see them years later. I'm like, when you left me, you were a little grouchy, but you seem kind of nice now. So I guess everything's kind of going okay. So that's fun when that happens.
I love that. I'm thinking about it now. I spent so much time with my divorce attorney and told them everything. I spent too much money because I thought they were my friend, my therapist. And then when it was over, I was like, that was just gone too. It was so weird. Mm-hmm. Do you have people that do that want to get kind of attached to you?
Yeah, I think that's a temptation. We're not qualified mental health professionals at our firm, right? So obviously there are certain things that are much better in the hands of a therapist, a counselor, a friend, your mama, your sister, whatever, your brother, your uncle. However, at our firm, at least, let me say this. You'll hear a lot of divorce lawyers say like, it's cheaper to call your therapist, and they're so judgy about it. Yeah. And I'm like, look, these people need somebody to talk to who understands and who can listen. And frankly, a lot of therapists are way out of their depth when you start talking about divorce. It's like they have no idea. Now, there are some who do, but like you need to make sure if you're talking to a mental health provider that they understand this world because they can give you really bad advice. Like people come to me and, my therapist said it, and I'm like, we are not doing that. You can do not listen to another thing they say. No offense. Talk to them after this is over. Yeah. But with us, we're like, look, our hourly rates are what they are. Like if this is how you'd like to spend your time and money and energy, we will do that. Always trying to identify when maybe someone is better qualified than us to provide, additional support. But sometimes it's just like, it can help in your case sometimes. And as lawyers, we always have to watch not getting like too personally invested, right? That's the thing a lawyer has to do, because one of the reasons you want a lawyer is their ability to be objective and help do what's right and best for the situation without sort of a subjective component. And if your lawyer was like friends with you, they could lose some of that objectivity that they need to, I think, do their best job.
Do you feel like you have to be available 24/7? Because I know I was like, I'll tell you, I was not myself when I was going through my divorce at all. And, I got a message at 11 o'clock and, oh my gosh, I need to let my attorney know now. And, oh, bless them. They worked, they did it. But how do you avoid that, or what do you do?
I don't. I mean, all of the clients at our firm have my cell phone number. Mm-hmm. And most lawyers are like, oh, my cell phone number, oh, my pearls. But for me, I'm like, look, my clients don't abuse it. If you call or text me at night or on the weekends, and I'll probably let it go to voicemail. I'm going to screen the situation. Mm-hmm. Do we have an urgent? Are there cops at the door? Like, do we really need to deal with this right now? Or is your anxiety demanding a response?
Ooh.
Because one of the things I try to tell people is your anxiety is not going to get all the answers it wants in this divorce. Wow. Your anxiety cannot be tamed. Yeah. You have to tame your anxiety and understand your anxiety wants to message me at 11 o'clock. You should really ask yourself, is this an 11 p.m. sort of question? Yeah. Like, can anything be changed before morning? Mm-hmm. Or am I just going to feel a little better? Because action feels better than inaction. So anxiety is urgent. Like it is a right now thing versus if you tune in to your inner self, your higher self, I would believe, like that part of you inside, it does not demand an 11 p.m. email. It just doesn't. That's just not the way. So for me, that's the way I sort of police that boundary. It doesn't mean that I don't take a call sometimes. Like I talked to a client, I knew she was stressed and worried about something. And I couldn't catch her in the day. I was just super slammed. And I said, look, if this is going to keep you up, let's go ahead and talk. Once I get the baby down, I'm going to get her settled, and then I can talk at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And that's a client I've had for years and whatever. So I think depending on the urgency of the situation, we'll do that at night and stuff. But generally speaking, business to business ways, I think that lawyers burn out and clients burn out if they're texting you, emailing you, and expecting responses at after hours. Yeah. They're also not going to like their bill, because the sort of clients who are messaging you at 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night on the weekends, they're also messaging you during the day. And then they're going to get their bill and be like, booga, why is my bill so much? I only called you 4 times a day. And I remember how I signed something, and the way you earn your living is literally talking to me about this. And then they're always shocked that their bill is so much money. So it helps all of us. The number one, so working with your divorce lawyer, or any kind of lawyer, this is true, but the reason I have to say this in this space, because that's where people are like, ooh, is make scheduled phone calls. That will get your anxiety in check. So say something comes up at 11 o'clock at night. And if you set a phone call for 2 days hence, in the future, for an hour, okay, anxiety, I've got a call in 2 days. That also gives you a buffer to calm the stink down, all right? So calm down. And then I bet you most of the times by the time that 2-day mark comes and that call comes, you'll be like, never mind, I don't really need to have a call. Sorry, I was just kind of freaking out. Versus immediate right now. And then, frankly, you won't get on your lawyer's nerves as much. Oh, here we go. I've got Misty calling me again. And, I would really rather drink this cup of coffee in peace for a minute, Yeah. So it helps you keep your costs down. It helps keep the temperature down. Yeah. Urgency raises the temperature. Raised temperatures cost more money, take more time. It's worse for kids. So creating space, it's really a boundary with yourself. Learning to do that in your divorce will make the whole thing go better, smoother, easier, more enjoyable. But it takes discipline. And in divorce, being disciplined is not really what you want. You demand now. Yeah. You need something. It feels like, oh my God, I was 2 minutes late. And he said he's now going to take my kids. And he said he's going to call the cops on me. And she said that she's going to take everything for what I'm worth now that she saw me, with a beer in my hand when the kids were there. Okay. when you go to court, you're only there like on temporary orders, right? Where a lot of this stuff would come up.
Yes.
You're there in, from anywhere, either under 3 hours or like a day or so. Like stuff like you were 2 minutes late, that is not coming up in court. Like the end, unless in that 2 minutes is because you were like doing crack in the parking lot. Well, okay, we may be talking about that.
Right.
But that's ties back to the taking the temperature down. And our firm, we're always trying to do that. Not all lawyers are that way. A lot of them are like, pump it up because guess what? Guess who makes more money when people fight? The lawyers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's it's not a lawyer's job necessarily to calm things down, but I suggest considering if you're sort of that sort of person who wants to be reasonable and everything, getting a lawyer who has a calm it down approach instead of heated up
Yes.
approach.
Well, I think I know who I would go with if I ever got divorced again.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
are.
never again.
Yeah, no. I don't want to. No. We're out of time, but I would love it if you could tell our audience where they can get a hold of you, your website, Instagram, and I will link everything below.
Oh, yeah. We're all over God's green internet. So like HembreeBell.com, Hembree Bell Law, or some iteration of that on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikToks, all those social internet things.
Yeah. And her social is so fun.
Oh.
So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we try.
And
if you want to
informative.
follow us, that would be fun. And leave
Yes.
comments and all that. And we look at all of them and do all of that. So,
Yes,
for sure.
you won't regret it. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a pleasure. And we will have you on a panel at a live event soon
Ooh, I
that
can't
we're
wait.
planning.
Yes, very fun.
So, thank you so much for joining us on the Women of Austin podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. For the latest on our events and to join our vibrant member community, head over to womenofAustin.com. We'll see you next time here on the Women of Austin podcast.